Hello everybody, I am back with this week's video. Took me a little bit longer to get this video up than I originally intended, but the reason for that is because it took me a long time to get through all of the material that I wanted to cover in this particular video. Between watching the King of Trio shows, Ring of Honor's pay-per-view, Night of Champions, all of this week's wrestling shows that I wanted to watch, and a bunch of other things. I had a lot of material to watch this week and get caught up in all my wrestling and cram it all into this one video. So, yeah, it was a long while, kind of a Herculean task, shall we say, to watch it all and get it all done and then get it all prepped for this video. Actually, I haven't finished watching everything yet. New Japan just had their Destruction in Okayama show, and I haven't watched that yet. I wanted to watch that and possibly give my thoughts on it at some point in the future, but I couldn't get through it. Another thing I wanted to watch that I didn't quite get all the way through was the new JBL Legends show. I did want to talk about that, but I'll cover that in a little bit. But first things first, quick update on the Q&A video, which is coming up soon. Thank you everybody who posted their questions. I actually got a lot more questions than I was anticipating. So looking over all the questions I've received so far, I think I have more than enough to make a video. So no more questions. We've already reached the deadline. I apologize I didn't actually set a deadline initially, but I looked at the amount of questions I've already been sent, and I was just like, yeah, I think we're good. I don't think I can. If I allow any more questions, there's no way that I'll be doing this, you know, the question and answers videos until next year. So I'm going to start working on that sometime soon. I think the way it's going to be lined up is that I'm going to do, obviously, this video, and then my next video will have something to do with the top 10 matches for September 2015 with some additional stuff thrown in there. And then the next video will hopefully be the question and answers video. There might be a show review in between. Something like that. So within the next 3 or 4 videos should be my question and answers video. So be on the lookout for that. But with all that, let's get started with all the wrestling news and notes that have gone on this week and a few of my reviews. But one major thing that I want to talk about and geek out over, Lucha Underground has been confirmed for Season 2. Fuck yeah! I am so fucking happy right now over that news. You have no idea. Throughout all of Season 1 of this show, I praised the living fuck out of Lucha Underground. I said it was the best wrestling show around. I loved it. It was just an enjoyable experience to watch all of Season 1. I've considered going back and re-watching Season 1. I enjoyed it that much, and I want to go back and relive those moments. And it's just great to have a wrestling show that I was just dying to see week to week as the storylines developed and the matches continue to get built up. It's just, I just could not miss this show week to week. And then even doing the season break and going on hiatus, it's like, oh my god, I'm just dripping with anticipation. I want more. And it's a show that keeps me excited and keeps me wanting more, which, you know, a lot of wrestling shows don't do that. When you don't have an off season or a hiatus, it's hard to do that. Because eventually you're going to get tired and stale, and then you got to move on to the next thing or whatever. I mean, it happens. But with Lucha Underground, I mean, their formatting and the way they structure themselves and everything is just perfect for creating exciting television week to week. And I'm so happy the show's coming back in 2016. I just can't wait to see what they have planned. My mind's already racing of things that they could possibly do next season, but we'll all see what happens, what they deliver when it comes time to debut Season 2. But, yeah, I wanted to come on here and mark out for that. Another thing I'm going to mark out for is the upcoming NXT TakeOver special, TakeOver Respect, which is happening soon. So far, what we have set, Tyler Breeze versus Uhaa Nation, or Apollo Crews, whatever you want to call him. You know, it should be a good match. I'm really impressed with Uhaa, or I keep calling him Uhaa. I'm really impressed with Apollo. I think he looks great. He's a great physical specimen and everything. My problem with the match is that Tyler's going to lose, and it's like, man, Tyler just cannot catch a break in these things. He's the guy that, you know, he should be one of the top heels, and he keeps losing when it comes to the TakeOver specials, and that's problematic, unfortunately, because I think Tyler is one of the most complete talents they have. But you know, it is what it is. The match will be fine, and I'm sorry, my phone just went off. Who the hell is that? Okay, never mind, you go off. Anyway, there's that. We also have the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic tournament finals taking place. It'll be the semifinals and the finals all on one show, so that's 3 matches right there. If I had to guess, ittle probably be Finn and Joe, Corbin and Rhino. Who else would it be? Probably Gable and Jordan, and possibly Dawkins and his partner. It would probably be your 4 teams. I forget it was partners. I'm sorry, but yeah, I've really been enjoying the tag team tournament. I think it's been great. I love the old school style recaps that they do to show what happened over the weekend during the live events, and I just love that the matches at the live events actually matter. It's one of the reasons I like the Bound for Glory series when TNA was doing that. And it makes it feel like the story is ongoing after the show's over. And again, it's very old school and very classic, and I really appreciate that. They even did like old school style pre-match promos for matches at upcoming live events. And I just dug that because I remember as a kid, you used to see the wrestlers cut promos for house show matches to get people to come out and see the matches. And that was always a nice special treat and not something that you get at all in this day and age. So to see NXT doing it is just wonderful, and I just love that stuff. But the real big thing for this upcoming special is the Sasha Banks Bayley 30-minute Iron Woman match, which will be the main event of the special. And let me start off by saying there really doesn't need to be an NXT World Title match as this show. You've got your women's main event, you've got the tag team tournament, you're pretty much set. You don't really need to have, there's no need to shoehorn a World Title match onto this special. They're building up Finn and Joe right now, so I say hold off until the next Takeover before you do that. Continue telling your story with the tag team tournament, and then you can save Finn and Joe for later. But for right now, you've got the Bayley-Sasha match, which is a more than suitable main event. I think it's going to be great. And I look forward to seeing it. And this is how you do a Divas Revolution. You establish strong characters, and you build up matches that people want to see. And that's something that Raw has definitely struggled with ever since they started the quote-unquote Divas Revolution. Although, I will applaud them that they actually gave us character development on Raw this week, or last week, I should say. Gave us character development with Paige and actually showing, like, her frustrations and her just basically flipping out at the whole situation. Basically saying all the stuff that I've been saying and turning it into a wrestling promo. Because really everything she said, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been saying. But, she's right. I mean, it's like, oh, Charlotte's the champion. Yeah, that's going to change things. Okay, sure. All of that. But it made for great character development. It's just a matter of seeing, all right, you going to do something with it? Okay, cool. I hope so. We'll see. So all that's fine, but for the most part, I mean, I did an entire video about it. Their Divas Revolution just hasn't been up to snuff. And you look at NXT, and it's like, that's why NXT is working, because they actually take the time to cultivate and grow and develop their characters. And through that, they create matches that you want to see. And they continuously add new talents. They just treated their new signing of Asuka. I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing. I forget what her WWE name is now. But they treated that like it was a big deal. And it's not like, they're building anticipation when she has her first match. Forget the fact that, forget title shots and forget, tag matches or anything like that. We haven't even seen her wrestle yet, and she already feels like a big deal because they've taken the time to actually establish her. You got Nia Jax showing up. Cool, and she's having all these creepy vignettes, and you feel like there's a character there, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when she shows up. They're building the foundation. They don't just throw them all out there and expect us to care. It's really one of those things. I look at the Divas. It's really one of those things. I look at NXT and I look at WWE's main show, and I don't know how they're under the same umbrella. Like, I don't know how the WWE produces both shows. It's like, this can't be the same creative system. It just can't be. It's crazy. But, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. All the stuff I wanted to cover. Speaking of other stuff, before I actually review the pay-per-views that I wanted to review, there are a couple of new shows in the WWE Network. Legends with JBL. He interviewed Eric Bischoff as his first guest. It's actually part one of his interview. Part two will be happening this week, I think. I watched about half of it because of time restraints. I couldn't watch the whole thing. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. It had the type of honesty that I would want out of WWE documentary or an interview or something like that, where they brought up things like Vince McMahon buying talent in the 80s and basically shutting down all the territories. And because, the story has always been, from the WWE point of view, is that Eric Bischoff was a villain and all he did was buy up all of Vince's talents and blah, 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 blah. And that's how WCW was able to beat them. And JBL even posed the point. It's like, well, isn't that pretty much what Vince did back in the 80s? And it's like, yeah, exactly. And, keeping that balance and keeping that same level of honesty, and it means a lot more when you talk about WCW and Eric Bischoff's mistakes, when you counterbalance it with his successes and justifications for doing what he did and everything like that. And it felt like Eric Bischoff gets to tell his side of the story and represent it accurately rather than just having a WWE. It's like, WCW was awful, blah blah blah, they were the devil and all this other stuff. It just feels ridiculous. But no, this felt a lot more balanced and fair, I guess we can say. Highlighting the mistakes, but also highlighting the successes as well. So it feels a lot more fair and balanced and more of a fair representation of it. So I really enjoyed that. I still haven't had a chance to watch Table for Three, which looked very interesting. It looked like something I might enjoy. I haven't heard anything about it, but we'll see. Eventually I'll get around to watching it. But there's some good content there on the network now, so yay. Hopefully the JBL show continues going, because so far I liked what I saw with the Eric Bischoff interview. But with that, let's jump into the WWE pay-per-view. Let me pull up my notes right here. Where is it? Yeah, sorry, the cursor's being mean to me. All right, Night of Champions. I have the whole card right here in front of me just to spark my memory. I was going to tie this in with my thoughts on Monday Night Raw, but quite honestly, Raw didn't really develop anything in a way that, it didn't just develop the story too much further from what had happened the night before on Night of Champions. Not enough to really say that there was a whole lot to talk about, except for what happened with Paige. That was really the only thing, and I already talked about that. So, going into the show, I didn't think Night of Champions was a bad show. I thought it was okay, for the most part. There's some stuff I liked, not a whole lot of terrible things. It wasn't a completely remarkable show, but as far as, who all the victors were and who walked out with the belts and everything, I thought for the most part they made the right decisions, for the most part. And they didn't do anything too stupid. So overall, it was an okay show, and they got out fairly unscathed. For a show that I didn't really care all that much about going into it, they came out of it okay and managed to put on something at least somewhat solid. Starting off things, we had Kevin Owens versus Ryback for the Intercontinental title. Solid match, perfectly solid match. Owens continuing to be this kind of dastardly jerk heel is just fun to watch, and the way watching him cheat to win was also fun too. And again, I think he was the right choice to win the IC title. I thought he was much more interesting character, deserves a lot more than what he'd been given. The Cena feud started him off hot, but then got him super cold because obviously Cena had to get his wins back, and the storyline became exceedingly repetitive, so it kind of left Kevin Owens out in the cold. But now he's got the Intercontinental title. Hopefully they can turn that into something meaningful. I don't want to throw too many ideas out there, but Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. Ooh, sorry about that. I don't know if there's too many other things they can do with Kevin Owens being the Intercontinental Champion. I'm not so sure. But that said, I thought the match was enjoyable and a perfectly fine way to start off the show. Next we had Dolph Ziggler versus Alexander Rusev, who we're not supposed to remember that his first name is Alexander, but whatever. I didn't watch this match. I used it as a piss break and an excuse to flip over to the Sunday night game and an excuse to call somebody. So I didn't actually watch this match. I didn't give a shit about the storyline. And therefore I didn't give a shit about the match, so why waste my time watching it? I caught the finish, which made me groan, with Summer throwing her shoe in there and hitting Rusev and leading to the loss and blah, 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 whatever. Don't give a fuck. I don't care. I just don't care. And the fact that they did that just tells me that the storyline's going to continue, which, why? Just fucking why? But anyway, whatever. And then we got the Tag Team Championship. It was the New Day defending against Team 3D. Match was solid. New Day was entertaining as always. And even though they did the DQ finish and I keep saying Team 3D. Sorry, they were in TNA for so long that it just kind of permeated itself. But the Dudley Boys, there you go. The Dudley Boys. They hit all their stuff, so you got your nostalgia pops and everything, and match was alright. It was perfectly fine, and even though they did the DQ finish, Thank God New Day walked out with the titles. I was so fearful that they were just going to jump the gun and put the belts on the Dudleys because, yay, nostalgia, when in actuality it's like, no, you keep going with the hot act. It's like, let's keep this new, fresh act that you've created and just keep them rolling strong. And yes, they had to get DQ'd to keep their titles, but they're heels, so it was fine. And yeah, they got beat up after the match, and Xavier got put through the table and everything, and the Dudleys had to stand tall. But overall, it's like, look, the important thing is that New Day walked out with the belt, so I'll take it. I'll take it. Next up was Charlotte versus Nikki Bella for the Divas title. The match was a little one-dimensional. It was just, basically the entire match was Nikki working over Charlotte's leg, and then Charlotte locks in the figure eight, which doesn't really make any sense because her leg is hurt. So to me, the leg injury would have meant a lot more if Charlotte wasn't able to lock in the figure eight. And she would have had to find some other way to beat Nikki, but they didn't do that. So it was like, oh, so she just beat her. Okay, so the injury meant nothing. But it was a whatever match, but I was happy with the result. And the result had the proper emotion with Flair coming out and crying and everything that happened the next night on Raw. So overall, right person won. Match itself, But at least the right person won, and I was happy with that. So, okay, no harm done, I guess. Then after that was the 6-person tag of the new Wyatt family taking over the Not Shield, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and their mystery partner Chris Jericho, which I give Jericho credit for putting them over and taking the loss and continuing to make Braun Strowman look strong, because they need to protect the monster image there, because that's really all Strowman has at this point. He might be super green, I don't know, but they've protected him well enough to where I don't want to find out if he's super green. It's like, look, just keep him invulnerable and then you'll be fine. That's just keep that monster image up. But match was okay. It was fairly typical of stuff you'd see on Raw. And right team went over. I was a little disappointed that Jericho was the partner, because I keep thinking that, all right, the Wyatt family is rebuilt. Wyatt's got his new guys. Now the Shield needs to rebuild themselves. You got Reigns and Ambrose, and they need to get a third guy to complete the new Shield. And it doesn't look like they're going to do that. They had Jericho, and then they just threw Randy Orton out there the next night on Raw. So it's like, okay, are we going to get a new Shield, or is this just going to be an endless cycle of 3-man teams that don't really mean anything in the long run? So, again, we'll see. I don't really know. But the match was okay for what it was, and like I said, the right team went over. Then we got the double main event with Seth Rollins having to pull double duty back-to-back. Seth Rollins versus John Cena for the U.S. title, and then Seth Rollins versus Sting for the world title. First of all, Seth Rollins is a star. That guy was the MVP of the show. To be able to do what he did in both matches, work that high-energy match with Cena, and then be able to work with Sting, work around Sting's limitations. And let's be honest, I love Sting, but he's, 56 years old. He's got limitations. Improvise and handle certain situations the way he did, most notably when the wave broke out during the match with Cena and the way he played with that, and the way he handled Sting's injury. More on that in a little bit. And the way he tried to work around that. Seth really proved himself to me as a general and as an entertainer and as a worker. He's really, really good, and he was the MVP of the whole show, of this whole main event situation. If Seth's performance isn't up to snuff, then this whole double match situation just kind of falls apart. And Seth, I thought, really made this work and had a star-making performance, I thought. Or, well, not star-making, he's already a star, but anybody that doubts Seth Rollins, I think, I challenge you to look at those two matches and tell me he doesn't deserve the spot that he's in. He's doing the best with whatever material he's given, and the stuff he does have control over, mostly the stuff in the ring, he does very well and to the best of his ability. And I thought he came off here looking great, at least as far as his performance goes. Now the match with Cena, it was almost carbon copy the match at SummerSlam, which again, that's the problem when you do these matches where you kick out of everything and then you do a rematch the next month. It just looks like the same thing the next month. It happened with the Owens matches. It happens with all of Cena's series of matches. They need to just have the one and then stop. Especially if Cena wins, because once Cena wins, it's like, who gives a shit? But in any case, I'm not saying the match was bad. I'm just saying it looked a lot like the SummerSlam match I saw the month before. Even down to Seth hitting that superplex into the Falcon Arrow, and Cena still kicking out, of course. And trying to play that off like it was something new, and I'm like, nope, saw it last month, so no, it was not new at all. I will say this though, Cena finally hit that flying leg drop and at least used it to set up the finish. He didn't actually beat Seth with it, but at least it wasn't just a pointless 2 count. So that's a first. Okay, cool. So yeah, the match was fine. It was just, too much of what I've already seen before. What happened after the match made Cena look like a fucking asshole, where he AA'd Seth on the cement floor. It's like, wow, you're a dick. You're an asshole. And how is Seth not the face here? I don't get it. Like, it just makes me feel sorry for Seth that he's been put into this royally unfair situation because Cena beat him and then beat him up after the match just to set him up for the other guy. And I was like, you know what? If I were Seth, I would just low blow Sting and get the hell out of there because fuck it. That was unfair. That was completely unfair. But in any case, you get Seth versus Sting as the main event. And like I said, Seth was able to work around Sting's limitations. And Sting, to his credit, at his age, doing some of the stuff that he was doing, like flying off the top turnbuckle to the outside and taking that hard table bump where he got like forced onto the table that way. And I was like, and taking buckle bombs, more than one. And I was like, Sting, really, just no, Sting, please. I don't want to watch you like die. And when he took that second buckle bomb and just kind of crumpled to the ground, and Seth started to loudly call spots in the ring, I was like, oh dear, this is not good. Like, this is not looking good. Can we just like wrap this up and go into the finish? Because my number one concern is always the safety of the wrestlers. So when it looks like one of them has been knocked loopy or they're not feeling right, it's like, all right, you need to wrap up, go home, and call it a day. And I felt like we were kind of at that situation with Sting. And to his credit, he did finish the match, and they went into the finish, and he put Seth over. And much to his credit, there's talk that this might be Sting's last match. That injury he took off the second buckle bomb. Actually, from what I'm hearing, he got injured off the first buckle bomb, and then he took the second one, and that just kind of made it worse. And it was very scary. And as someone who's a huge fan of Sting, I never want to see like him in that type of state where he's just kind of falling over and crumpled over and looking like he wouldn't be able to finish the match. And he did it, and he worked hard to put Seth over, which he did. Now, the only thing I'll question about the booking here is that they really undercut Seth and his victory over Sting by having Sting lose at WrestleMania to Triple H. Because to me, it's like, and Triple H, if that was your call, I'm going to explain how you hurt yourself, okay? Let's go into this. Let's go back, change back time, and do the match the way God intended, okay? Sting goes over. Okay, Sting beat Triple H at WrestleMania. And that was his first and only WWE match up to that point. And then he returns to challenge Seth Rollins later in the year in time for Night of Champions. Okay. You had been doing the angle on TV where Stephanie would get in Seth's face and say, you're not as good as Triple H, and which is bizarre to me that would be the angle, but okay, that's the angle they're going with, because they obviously want to do Seth and Triple H at some point, which is fine. It just sounds weird to me that the WWE champion is being told he's not as good as the guy that's semi-retired. Okay, that makes sense. It's this fascination with always saying that the past generation was better. That's really kind of undercut them from establishing new stars. But in any case, that's the story they're doing. Okay. Now let's pretend again that Sting beat Triple H at WrestleMania. Then you head into Night of Champions, and Seth has been told that he's not as good as Triple H. He goes into this situation, has the match with Cena. Then he faces Sting, the guy that beat Triple H, that beat the guy that people are saying that Seth is not as good as, and Seth beats Sting after working a match earlier in the night. So then Seth can come out and say, I beat the guy that Triple H couldn't beat after wrestling a match prior to it. How dare you say that I'm not as good as Triple H when I'm clearly better than him? And there's the genesis of your build up to Triple H and Seth Rollins down the road whenever they want to do that match. By having Triple H beat Sting at WrestleMania, you basically undo all of that, and Seth just beat a piece of crap. Basically, because Sting looks like crap now. I mean, let's be honest. That's how he's been booked. That's how he looks. He lost at WrestleMania, and then he lost to Seth Rollins, a guy who had a match just minutes earlier. So Sting looks like an old piece of crap right now. He doesn't look like a star. He doesn't look like beating him is really that big of a deal. And that's the fault of the booking. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. And, it hurts Seth because it doesn't make his accomplishment look as big. It hurts Sting because, obviously, he's a legend in this business. It was a major coup from the WWE that they finally got him, and they haven't utilized him in a way that would make that, in my opinion, that would convince people that he's that big of a deal, at least based on the booking. Unless you remember what Sting was and you watched him back in the day, you're not going to know how great he really was or is. And, that type of booking, it just hurt the overall situation. And like I said, it hurts. It kind of took away from the build up to the eventual Seth versus Triple H match, because I'm always thinking ahead and what they can do and what stories they can do, and that's to me that loss that Sting took to Triple H at WrestleMania, it's looking like a bigger mistake more and more and more. And oh well. And I am happy that Sting put over Seth. I am happy that Sting put over Seth and everything, and that's fine. I'm sorry he got hurt, and although I guess it means we won't be getting that Undertaker Sting match. Oh no, perish the thought. But they really undercut how important that win over Sting could have been if Seth had been the first one to beat him in WWE. And unfortunately, they didn't do that, and that's just how it is. But overall, I thought Seth looked like a megastar here. Him having to put over Cena the next night on Raw was ridiculous, and it was just like, you expect me to pay $9.99 for the network. Why should I do that when you're giving me rematches for free the next night on Raw with the same results? Cena just beat him, and it's like, well, fuck that. I don't care anymore. You're pounding me into a state of apathy. And Masked Kane is back. Yippee! For his 85th face run. I'm not sure. Again, it's that endless trio of Big Show, Kane, and Mark Henry. How many heel and face turns have all three of them have? That'll be your WrestleMania match, by the way. WrestleMania 32. Kane versus Big Show versus Mark Henry. Oh, yeah. It'll be a winner. It'll just be a complete gasser. But, yeah, it's just, I don't care about Kane versus Seth. I'm sure Seth can get a good match out of him because he's fucking Seth Rollins, but I just don't care. It doesn't appeal to me at all. But with that said, I didn't think Night of Champions was a bad show. It was mostly enjoyable, mostly for Seth Rollins. But as it was an okay show overall. Looking ahead in the WWE, we've got Brock's Go to Hell tour, or I guess Brocktober Part 2, depending on how long you've been following Brock's career. So we're getting a couple special shows out of it. We're getting the MSG show, which will have Brock Lesnar versus Big Show on it, which I've seen 80 billion times. I don't care. It was like, really? Do you people get bored? I mean, the creative team, do you get bored when you pitch these matches? Do you not realize that they've happened as many times as they have? Do you just forget? It's crazy. Because I feel like I've been watching Big Show and Brock Lesnar since I was in, over a decade, for Christ's sake. It's just crazy. Do fresh matches, please. I mean, even if it's just a squash match, like his match with Kofi at the Japan show, at least it's different. Do something different. I don't care what. I mean, fuck. You're just, okay, Brock's going to suplex Big Show 40 times and beat him, and that'll be the end of that. So who cares? So that's the thing. And then at Hell in a Cell, he's wrestling Undertaker again, which I guess that was expected given how their SummerSlam match ended, but I don't think the SummerSlam match should have ever happened. And it's like, all right, so it's Brock and Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell. Is Undertaker going to collapse again after this match? Because it feels like he collapses after every match he has now. If you collapse after almost every match you have, maybe that's an indicator that you shouldn't be doing this anymore. It's kind of like what I said about Sting. It's like, look, you're close to 60 years old. You still... you're physically good and you perform well on the limited schedule that you're given, and your effort is there, but you did get knocked loopy and it was really scary, and please don't do that to yourself. And Undertaker, I'm getting to that same. I'm beyond that same point with Undertaker, where it's like, dude, seriously, you collapse after every match. Can we just stop it now? Just stop, for the love of Christ, just stop. I've even seen them in a Hell in a Cell match before, so it's like, all right, I've seen this match 80 times, and to me, they never should have had another one after Brock beat him at WrestleMania. That should have been the end of it, but they don't like to. They just got to pound everything to death, but it'll be interesting, I guess. I don't know, but they're doing all this special promotion with Brock and the Go to Hell tour and everything. I just wish they'd come up with fresher matches for it, but it is what it is. But there were other shows that I checked out this week. Like I said, there was the King of Trios tournament, and let me pull up my notes here. And the next show I'm going to review is actually the Ring of Honor All-Star Extravaganza show, which happened the Friday before Night of Champions. It had a similar setup, with Jay Lethal having to defend both the TV title and the Ring of Honor World title on the same show, although he opened up and then main evented, whereas Seth just had both matches back-to-back as the closer. So, which is, really amazing that Seth was able to pull that off as well as he did. Wrestling twice in one night that's a hard task for anybody. To wrestle two matches back-to-back, that must have been really tough. But Lethal did a similar thing at All-Star Extravaganza. This show, I feel like the booking kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. Yeah, like there was a little, there's some good action in it and everything, but I felt like Ring of Honor kind of shot themselves in the foot with some of the kind of stale booking that they presented. But let's jump into the card. We had Lethal versus Bobby Fish for the TV title. That opened up the show. Probably my favorite match on the show. I thought it was a really good, solid opener. Great wrestling, great action, good match between Lethal and Fish. Set the tone for the Lethal's whole situation of having to wrestle both members of Red Dragon and defend both of his belts. And it was solid. I really enjoyed it. And just a good match all around. And like I said, it was sadly probably the best match on the show. Sorry, my document's getting away from me here. Okay. Next up, we got Silas Young versus Dalton Castle. I have to admit, this feud isn't really doing it for me. My guess is that they're doing, and it's not really much of a guess, I guess that they're going for a homophobic angle with Silas Young, like looking down on Dalton's lifestyle, but it's so understated and they're not really going full force with it, and because it's so understated, it just comes across as kind of half-assed. And I don't know, it's just not really doing it for me. If you want to do a homophobic angle, just go all the way with it. Just make Silas like the worst person imaginable and just overly critical and just awful, but they just didn't want to do that. And the battle was, the stipulation of the match was that if Silas wins, he gets ownership of Dalton Castle's boys, and if Dalton Castle won, Silas Young would become one of his boys. And a unique stipulation if there ever was one. And the match itself was kind of, because it's like what I said about Rusev and Ziggler, because I'm not feeling the angle, I didn't really care about the match all that much, so it was just kind of like, wasn't really feeling this match. And I like both. I like Dalton, he's a really flashy, colorful guy, and I like Silas, he's got more of an old school style to him that I appreciate. But it just didn't, I don't know, the match just didn't click with me. And Silas won, so we'll see how the angle continues going forward now that he has ownership of the boys. And hopefully they're able to turn it around and make it into something good. Next up, we got the Briscoe brothers taking on the mystery team, which turned out to be the returning All Night Express, Kenny King and Rhett Titus, which was a nice surprise. I liked having Kenny King and Rhett Titus back as a team, and just another good team to add into Ring of Honor's tag team division, who, if they work their matches better, and I've criticized the way they work their tag matches, which I'll get into when I get into the three-way, but they should have the best tag team division on the planet. They pretty much do, only by default, but I just wish they would work their tag matches a little better. But I like the All Night Express. I think they're a good team, so adding them back into the mix is A-okay with me. And next up, we got Moose versus Cedric Alexander in a no DQ match. Now, this is a feud I have enjoyed. I really like Cedric's heel turn. I like Moose as a character. He's this really fun, kind of charismatic, muscled babyface, and the fans have really gravitated to him. You wouldn't expect the Ring of Honor fans to really like somebody like Moose, because they typically like the for lack of a better term, the more indie style guys like the high flyers and the submission wrestlers. So you wouldn't expect them to like somebody like Moose, but they've really gravitated to him, and because they like him, it makes his matches more exciting and more fun. And I thought they went out there and had a pretty solid no DQ match. There was one part that was a little ridiculous where Cedric hit the Van Terminator and Moose kicked out of it in the middle of the match like it was just another move. And I'm like, do we really want to get to a point where the Van Terminator is, a throwaway 2 count? Is that where we're headed now? Do we really want to get to that point? But overall, the table spots they did were fun. The ladder spots they did were fun. It was just a nice, hard-hitting, hardcore match that culminated a pretty solid feud. The antics with the managers were fun. I kind of like Veda Scott. Well, of course, she's also easy on the eyes, which is also very, very nice. But overall, I thought it was a nice match. Moose got the win, which was satisfying and a nice closer to everything. And I thought it came off really well, so I was happy with this match. So good on them. I thought it was really good. Next up, we got ACH versus Matt Sydal in match 3 of their best of 5 series. I expected a lot more out of this match. I don't know. I like ACH as a talent. I like Matt Sydal too. And I thought they'd go out there and have this really cool, high-flying match. And it was just kind of just an okay, mundane match. It wasn't really that special or anything. I don't know. Maybe I just set my expectations too high, but I just wasn't expecting anything out of this. So, I wasn't feeling anything out of this, I should say. I expected much higher than this, but, it was just kind of an okay, mundane match. It was like, all right, fine, whatever. Then we got the 3-way match for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles, which was the Kingdom, the Young Bucks, and the Addiction. Sooner or later, I'm going to learn to use the multi-man tag matches as piss breaks because they all look the same. Like, they're just... and yes, you get all the pretty spots and you get all of that, the flips and the dives and everything. And if it's a Young Bucks match, you will get 40,000 super kicks. But, it's just a bunch of pinballs bouncing all over the place, and it gets boring after a while, I think. As a viewer, it's like, I've seen this. It's just this constant... It's like a Michael Bay explosion fest. It's like, I've seen it, there's no substance to it, and I don't care anymore. And, the finish was even kind of annoying where it was like, oh, there was a blind tag that led to the victory and everything. And it was like, wait a minute, nobody's been tagging in and out for like 10 minutes. So A, how do you know who the legal man is? And B, it's like, who cares about tagging at this point? You've completely thrown that out the window. So why does it suddenly matter for the finish? And I don't know. Again, if this were just a straight-up Tornado Rules match, there wouldn't be a problem. But the fact that they kind of, fake that tagging actually matters when it really doesn't, the way they work their matches, it's more annoying than anything else. And again, if Ring of Honor would just work their tag matches better, they'd have the best tag division on the planet, but all their tag matches wind up looking like just pinballs, bouncing all over the place, nobody tagging in and out. The Young Bucks are the worst offenders of that, but most of their teams do it, and it's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of talented guys there that could have really, really good, exciting tag team matches without having to resort to just flippy-flopping and bouncing all over the place and, 8,000 super kicks per match and all of that jazz. But whatever. I also question the decision to have the Kingdom win the belts because they've been building up the Addiction versus the Young Bucks for the titles for a fairly lengthy period now. And I was like, really? You just put the titles on the Kingdom? Okay. I mean, I guess Addiction versus the Young Bucks can be non-title, but you've been building it up as a title match. You would have thought that one of them would have walked out with the belts, probably the Addiction, but whatever. It is what it is. Next up, we got the number 1 contenders match, the winner getting a title shot at the Ring of Honor World title. It was AJ Styles versus Roderick Strong versus Adam Cole versus Michael Elgin. Kind of the single match version of the match from before, but because it's based in singles wrestling, the bouncing all over the place isn't as annoying because there's no tagging involved, so it's a little bit more sensical. And overall, it was fun. AJ and Elgin had their working boots on and worked really well in there, and Cole and Strong look good as well, and you got a lot of nice spots and sequences and everything, and AJ just looks amazing in there. I was also, I'll talk about this in King of Trios as well, but AJ is just amazing, and the things that he's still able to do at this stage of his career, it's pretty remarkable, and he's such a remarkable talent. I was happy to see him win, because now we're getting AJ versus Lethal for the Ring of Honor World title sometime soon, so that will be really cool, and I can't wait to see that match. So I think that's going to be a great one. Then we got Jay Lethal versus Kyle O'Reilly for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title. The main event was going well up until all the run-ins started, and then it just became like a WCW TNA thing, and it just kind of got ridiculous, and it just got absurd. And then they had Adam Cole, after weeks and weeks of building up that Adam Cole was going to leave the Kingdom, and he was going to join back up with Kyle O'Reilly, and, they had joined together as Future Shock again. Now he just turns heel, and they basically undo all of that build-up. And it just feels like they're going back on what they'd build up rather than giving you a payoff to the build-up. It just feels like they're taking, all the weeks of build-up and just throwing it in the garbage can just for the sake of doing it. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of leaves everything where it was before. It's like, did we really need to do the whole, teasing friendship thing and all of that other stuff just to go back to right where you were before? It's like, you basically undid character development. But, yeah, it kind of soured the main event for me, and it's just kind of, whatever. I mean, Lethal, again, looked great, but it's just kind of a lame ending to the pay-per-view, and that's kind of unfortunate because Ring of Honor, the effort's definitely there. The wrestlers try their hardest, but when the booking gets in the way, it kind of hurts the overall show, and there was a lot of booking on this show that kind of made me go, it didn't really work for me. But I actually thought this show would be better than Night of Champions, and it really wasn't. I'd probably say Night of Champions was the better show, which is kind of odd, but it is what it is. But, so we got that. And I think the last thing I'm going to be doing is the King of Trios. Nights 1, 2, and 3. This happened a few weeks ago, but I haven't had time to watch it, so I'll talk about it now, almost a month later. This was my first King of Trios tournament. I made a point of watching it this month because it was the first time I'd ever watched it, and overall I enjoyed it. I should note that of the 3 shows, I only watched the tournament matches, and the reason for that is because I was very short on time, and it's like, look, I can only watch the 6-man tag matches here and anything that relates to the tournament. And it was enjoyable. Again, you kind of get that aspect I talked about with the Ring of Honor tag matches where it's just people bouncing all over the ring and flying all over the place and not tagging in and out. But because it's Lucha Libre rules and going outside the ring allows a new person to come in and it almost counts as a legal tag, that almost makes that make sense to some degree. So it's like, okay, I'll go with it. And overall, it was a pretty fun 3 shows. You had, I won't go into the specifics of the matches, but obviously Team AAA was a sentimental favorite of mine, me being a Lucha Underground fan, and you had Phoenix and Drago and Aerostar all teaming together, and I was, they called them Team AAA, but I called them Team Lucha Underground because that's how I know them best. Being an American fan, and I know Phoenix had that incident in night 2 where he flipped off the crowd or something, and but he apologized for it, so it's all cool. The Bullet Club brought a lot of star power to it, AJ and the Young Bucks, and again, AJ looked amazing despite the botch where he had trouble hitting that flying forearm, it seemed. But overall, having them there added a lot more star power to this situation, a lot more energy to it. The Devastation Corporation with all their what do I want to say? Those Mystery Science Theater Space Mutiny names. For anybody that saw the Space Mutiny episode of Mystery Science Theater, Dirk Longpeck and Biff McLargehuge and all that other stuff. The members of the Devastation Corporation have very similar names to that, which I wouldn't be surprised was the intention. But they were great as kind of the heels to dominate the tournament up until the last night where they lost in the semifinals, and I thought having them there, these big, bruiser guys that were bullying around all the high-flying guys, I thought that was great. They had a little storyline with the Arcane Horde, and I thought that came off well. I thought Team AAA had a really good match with the Nightmare Warriors, and then I thought both semifinals matches, it was Team AAA and the Devastation Corporation and Young Bucks, or the Bullet Club and what were they called? Fight Club Pro, who were like the scrappy young underdog team throughout the entire thing, and they were great. I thought they picked the right 4 teams to go to the semifinals. Then you got Bullet Club versus Team AAA in the finals, which was a very good match. And Team AAA won, which is fun to see, and I like seeing Drago and Aerostar and Phoenix all win the tournament, so that was all really good. So for my first King of Trios, it was very fun, and I enjoyed it. I've been told there are much better tournaments that I should have checked out earlier. I should have gotten into it earlier, and but for a first one, I enjoyed the whole concept and everything, and I probably will check it out again next year, so hopefully there's a better one. But overall, I enjoyed it. I just thought it was a lot of fun, and it's just nice to see another tag team tournament going on that's just provided a lot of colorful characters and fun situations and good action and everything. And it's good to get both that and the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic on NXT. Just a good influx of great tag team action that actually matters and means something. So a lot of enjoyable stuff there. So yes, I enjoyed King of Trios 2015, definitely. But that is all I have for now for this super long video. Next up, I will probably be talking about my top 10 favorite matches for September of 2015. That'll be my next video. And then after that, hopefully I can knock out the question and answers video and we can move forward from there. But I hope you all had a great weekend. This is all I have for you now. And until then, I will see you all later.